And welcome to the last lesson, part of 8.2. Today we are going to talk about using trigonometry to solve for missing angle measures in right triangles. So reminder, your calculator should be in degree mode. So for those of you that need to double check on your graphing calculator, and if you go under the mode, you should be in degree. It would not have changed hopefully since our last lesson. Now with that then, we can use our calculators to round. This time we're going to go to the nearest hundredth, so 2 decimal places, using these different pieces of info. Okay, so we have on this first one, sine of C and is 17/19. So what we do is we hit second button, sine, and this is going to allow us to type in that angle measure, or that ratio is 17/19. So that we can solve to get 63.47 degrees. And then same thing with cosine of B, we take the inverse of that. So again, second button to get the inverse here. And again, type in your fraction, 6/11. This will give us our angle measure, 6 divided by 11, just one time. And we would get our angle measure of 56.94. So in the last one, you should try, again, second button on your calculator first, and then you're going to type tangent to get your answer for the angle measure of A. Now again, basically what we're seeing this time, different than yesterday, okay, our variable is the angle this time. So for instance, we would have sine x degrees equals 7/30, for instance, okay? So the angle is the x, and what we do is we will hit the second button and then whatever trig you are using so that you see this inverse. Okay, so to get what x is by itself in our calculator, you have to use the inverse, and then you would type in, for instance, with sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so second button on these. So again, just like we talked about up above, when you want to solve this equation for that x, second tangent on this one, we have 57 divided by 23. This time we round to the nearest tenth, so 68.0. Okay, and again, what we see is because we hit that second button, we have that inverse. And you just type this in, as is 68.0 degrees. All right, another one for you to try then. This time you are using a sine and you are finding the value of x. Now, similar to what we did yesterday, okay, we are still setting up our equations by circling the reference angle and labeling all of that given information. And then we used SOHCAHTOA to decide what's the best sine, cosine, or tangent to use, and then we will solve our equation based on that. Okay, so on the back page, if we look here, okay, we are going to circle our angle this time. This time we have the adjacent over the hypotenuse, right? And so cosine would be our best one to use, right? With adjacent and hypotenuse. We don't have the opposite to do sine. We don't have the opposite to do tangent. So we set this up, okay? But again, the key is our x is the angle this time. So cosine of x degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So again, we don't have to think about switching and dividing or multiplying, because in order to get x, we need to have the inverse of 60 divided by 61. Okay, so cosine inverse 60, cosine inverse 60 divided by 61. Get our angle measure to be about 10.4 degrees. On our second example, we are given x as the angle again, so we know we will need to use inverse. And this time we are also being given the adjacent leg and the hypotenuse for this triangle. So again, this is going to be another cosine example. And then this time adjacent over hypotenuse to get our x value, cosine inverse of that fraction. So again, using the calculator, so I'm going to do this second button cosine. This time, again, we have 15 over 21. 44.4 degrees will end up being the size of our angle. All right, we have two more examples for you to try below. This time you are setting up to solve for x in example C, and then you will also set up and solve for x in example D. All right, now we also can do a little bit of a picture representation with these. So for instance, we have a bike ramp that is 12 feet long. The vertical elevation is 5 feet above the ground. And we want to know what is the measure of the angle formed with the ground. Sometimes you're going to see this called the angle of elevation. So again, because we need to solve for x, this time we are given opposite and hypotenuse, and I'm going to use sine to solve for my angle, opposite, hypotenuse. So to get x, I need to inverse this and take sine inverse. So second button sine, 5 divided by 12. My angle would be 24.6 degrees. And again, we're just rounding to the nearest tenth on these. All right, the last one is for you to try. Okay, you want to lean your ladder against a wall. Okay, the ladder is 17 feet. And the distance the base of the ladder makes with the wall is 11 feet. What is going to be your value of x this time? Thanks everyone for watching. We'll work more with all three types of solving in class.